was standing alongside Ryan Reynolds in every single one of these scenes on Deadpool and Wolverine, where Nice Pool was introduced and then abused and then assassinated in a very graphic, overdone manner because ha ha ha, that's really funny to kill people that you have an issue with in real life by turning them into characters. It is highly unlikely, therefore, that Hugh Jackman was not therefore at least aware of why his quote-unquote best friend.
Chaos and speculation have always been part of Hollywood's DNA, but nothing prepared fans for the swirling rumors around one of the most anticipated superhero collaborations in recent memory. When talk spread that Deadpool and Wolverine would finally share the screen, excitement soared, until unexpected names and controversies burst into the spotlight. Suddenly, this wasn't just a movie. It was a brewing storm of allegations and drama. Whispers hinted that Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively were pulling more strings than anyone realized, while Hugh Jackman, the beloved Wolverine himself, seemed caught off guard by it all. With rumors of feuds, lawsuits, and behind-the-scenes power plays, the entire production quickly morphed into a wild saga.
What Ryan Reynolds, has seemingly done, right, is used his power and influence to not only help Blake Lively take over this movie, but, he's used it, on Deadpool and to make fun of Justine Baldoni.
What you're about to discover might shock you, and it certainly will change the way you see these Hollywood heavyweights. The stage was set for a triumphant return of Wolverine, joined by the wisecracking antics of Deadpool. Fans had waited ages for these two to collide on the big screen. But as filming began, stories surfaced that overshadowed the usual hype. Suddenly, we weren't talking about superhero costumes and comic-accurate fight scenes. Instead, the chatter revolved around Blake Lively, an actress who wasn't even officially on the call sheet, exerting surprising influence over everything from script decisions to final edits.
Agree that Ryan Reynolds was the leader in this. I believe that. I believe Ryan Reynolds was the leader and is the leader in everything that she does. So should we be compassionate? And the answer is no, my friends. We obviously should not be compassionate. That's not how this works, okay? And why do I feel like threatened somehow when I listen to this?
What started as hearsay soon ballooned into one of the most talked about controversies in Hollywood. Could it really be that Lively, once known primarily for her roles in television dramas and rom-coms, had maneuvered herself into the driver's seat of a major superhero film? And if that weren't enough, Justine Baldoni, famed actor, director, and producer, found his name pulled into the fray. Somehow Baldoni's disputes with Lively had spilled into the creative corners of Deadpool, fueling rumors that Reynolds himself might be using the film to settle old scores. Everything pointed to a puzzle far more complicated than anyone suspected. And at the center stood Hugh Jackman, who reportedly never anticipated that his longtime passion project could devolve into such tangled chaos. For months, fans speculated about how Deadpool's irreverent humor would mesh with Wolverine's gritty persona. Nobody guessed that conversation would expand to include tension over Blake Lively's supposed unofficial hand in the production.
So much more evidence has come forward from even Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively themselves that all but confirms that yes, Ryan used his Nice Pool character in Deadpool and Wolverine to mock Justine Baldoni.
The initial spark came when eagle-eyed observers noticed Lively lingering on set far more often than a typical spouse visit might warrant. Then a flurry of social media posts hinted that she wasn't just cheering from the sidelines, she might have been shaping the film itself. Skeptics dismissed these rumors at first. After all, Hollywood sets routinely see actors' partners dropping by, and Lively had every reason to be present, given her husband's starring role. But then people started noticing subtle changes in casting and creative direction that didn't quite align with the standard Marvel or superhero approach. A hush fell over the industry as insiders suggested that it wasn't just Reynolds calling shots behind the scenes. Lively's name began to pop up in hushed hallway conversations, often tied to major decisions that normally would have come from a director or producer. The bigger puzzle piece fell into place when certain production staff revealed that story meetings had included an unidentified extra voice. That voice, they hinted, wasn't random.
Okay? When you get caught doing something that is purely evil, the task is...
It was someone highly interested in rewriting certain scenes and pushing for last-minute script tweaks. Some even claimed that Lively wanted say over character arcs and comedic beats, unusual territory for someone with no formal credit on the project. Once these murmurs gained traction, fans wondered how all of this would affect Hugh Jackman, who had nurtured the Wolverine role for more than 2 decades. Jackman, for his part, initially stayed quiet. After all, he was returning to a role that was essentially his legacy, and any friction seemed manageable, until it wasn't. Reports emerged that Jackman felt blindsided once he realized how deeply Lively had embedded herself in key production meetings. Insiders whispered that script changes weren't necessarily in line with Wolverine's established lore, or Jackman's personal vision for the character.
One thing I know about myself is everybody, I don't care how many times you played a part or how well you know it, having someone who really knows you and knows the character and knows how to get the best out of you there, like Jim does with me, he did not leave me alone. Trust me, there was no like, oh, you do your thing, man. I'll worry about everything else. He was on me every day.
As the conversation grew more heated, so did the speculation. How, people asked, could so much of the film's direction be swayed by an actress who wasn't even listed as a producer? And that was only the beginning. If there's one thing that drives fans wild, it's the idea that major creative choices are being influenced by outside forces. According to multiple accounts, Lively's involvement was more than just tossing out casual suggestions. Some say she effectively gained a seat at the creative table. Not only did she voice opinions about Deadpool's comedic tone, but she allegedly weighed in on how Wolverine should be portrayed. Finer details that, until then, had been left to Jackman and the film's official creative team. Naturally, all eyes turned to Hugh Jackman. There was a sense of whiplash among longtime Wolverine fans. Jackman had once spoken openly about the joy of shaping Wolverine's narrative, especially after years of championing the character. Yet, behind closed doors, frustration simmered. Insiders claimed that Jackman found it impossible to get a straight answer on who was steering certain creative calls, and by the time he realized Lively was deeply involved, it was far too late to reverse key decisions. The story took a new twist when Justine Baldoni's name surfaced. Known for his role in popular television dramas and his passion for socially conscious projects, Baldoni had collaborated with Lively in the past. However, rumors swirled about friction between them, particularly after the adaptation of It Ends With Us.
That's bad.
Suddenly, people began dissecting Deadpool's jokes and references, suspecting they were more than random gags. They might be hidden jabs at Baldoni. Why Baldoni? According to swirling theories, Lively and Baldoni had parted ways on less than ideal terms, with controversies ranging from creative disagreements to personal grievances. Observers noted that certain lines in Deadpool's script could be read as veiled potshots. The comedic barbs about meddling producers, HR complaints, or suspicious demands for oversight struck some as oddly specific. Baldoni's supporters even suggested that Reynolds was funneling all these jabs into the film specifically to poke fun at Lively's old adversary. The entire storm surrounding Lively's involvement in Deadpool and Wolverine began echoing controversies from her past. People recalled rumors from her time on Gossip Girl, where gossip, ironically, suggested she wielded uncanny influence on fellow castmates. Penn Badgley, who dated Lively for a time, was said to have felt alienated from the rest of the cast, spurring speculation that Lively had orchestrated behind-the-scenes divides. Then came It Ends With Us, where Lively took on a starring role while Baldoni produced and directed. The early excitement about the adaptation quickly morphed into allegations of overshadowing and control. Baldoni's original vision allegedly evaporated as Lively stepped into a quasi-producer role, without the official title.
Blake Lively is caught in old footage, revealing that yes, her secret plan is to always take control of the movies and lie to the directors to get it.
By the time the movie approached release, fans could barely recognize Baldoni's footprint. and some insisted that Lively had reorganized the entire creative team to her liking. At the time, these claims seemed like they might blow over. But the Deadpool and Wolverine drama brought old scars back to the surface. Nothing sets Hollywood abuzz like a blockbuster lawsuit, and the Baldoni-Lively feud escalated to dizzying new heights when talk of a $400 million legal battle broke. Accusations included defamation, civil extortion, and breach of contract, painting a picture far more intense than standard on-set disagreements. Baldoni's legal team asserted that Lively's actions weren't just about creative differences. They claimed she actively sabotaged his vision for multiple projects and manipulated the narrative around their fallout. Suddenly, the conversation shifted from rumor to courtroom drama. The sheer scale of the lawsuit suggested Baldoni believed he had more than a few grievances. He was seeking massive damages, presumably to account for lost opportunities, reputational harm, and perhaps even the emotional toll. News outlets latched onto the figure: $400 million. It was a headline too big to ignore. Could a single behind-the-scenes dispute really balloon to such astronomical levels?
And sometimes I would have people who really resented that because they were like, we just hired you to be an actor. Yet when I went in the meetings, I would just seem like I'm just there to be the actor and ready to get the gig. I wouldn't reveal that I actually need to have authorship in order to feel fulfilled. So I think that for them, sometimes that might have felt like a rug pull because you're like, you're trying to assert yourself into something that we didn't hire you to do. And so it was a really strange position to be in because I felt like I don't want to just like be an actor. Like I want to have more authorship.
Caught in the crossfire was Ryan Reynolds, whose comedic persona and philanthropic efforts often overshadow any controversies. But as this lawsuit took center stage, even his friendly public image began showing cracks. People wondered, could Reynolds have played a role in orchestrating shots at Baldoni through Deadpool's notoriously snarky script? If so, how would that reflect on someone usually beloved for his witty charm? At this point, even the biggest Hollywood names seemed wary of taking sides. Taylor Swift, known for her close friendship with Lively, reportedly distanced herself from the intensifying conflict. Industry whispers suggested Swift didn't want to risk getting dragged into a legal quagmire that could tarnish her brand. Meanwhile, Penn Badgley quietly unfollowed Lively on social media, but continued to follow Baldoni, sparking a flurry of gossip. Fans interpreted this subtle digital action as a clear statement of solidarity with Baldoni, or at least as a rejection of the swirling negativity around Lively. Ryan Reynolds faced his own dilemma. A fiercely loyal partner, he stood by Lively in public. But behind closed doors, sources hinted he was growing concerned about the lawsuit's potential ramifications. He had poured years of effort into building the Deadpool franchise, harnessing its edgy humor to reinvent comedic superhero films. If the public came to see Deadpool as a personal mouthpiece for attacking Lively's rivals, the brand could suffer. Marvel's entire corporate machine might become uneasy about continuing a franchise overshadowed by real-world grudges. Just when it seemed the situation couldn't grow more complicated, leaked emails and set photos fanned the flames further. One set of images showed a woman in Deadpool's suit with a noticeably feminine silhouette. Fans went wild, theorizing that Lively might be playing Lady Deadpool in some capacity, or at least cameoing in a way that had been kept secret.
It's not every day the husband gets to interview his wife's love interest in a film. It's kind of crazy.
I don't remember seeing this on the
Let's
schedule.
dive in.
This rumor only fueled beliefs that she was more than a passing participant. If she was physically suiting up, how involved was she, really? Meanwhile, certain lines of dialogue from early script drafts found their way online, each seemingly more pointed than the last. One line had Deadpool cracking a joke about an intimacy coordinator fiasco, which many tied directly to the controversies between Lively and Baldoni over how intimate scenes were managed on their shared project. Another snippet featured a snarky aside about HR complaints, echoing the claims that Lively filed disputes that never had an official department to handle them in the first place. These bits of dialogue might have been harmless if not for the context swirling around them. Without the background drama, they would have blended seamlessly into Deadpool's irreverent comedic style. But layered with the knowledge of Lively's real-life disputes, they took on a more sinister tone. Audiences were left debating whether it was all a big coincidence or if Reynolds had, in fact, used his creative control to weave personal digs into the film's tapestry. After months of swirling rumors, it's clear that the Deadpool and Wolverine collaboration has become overshadowed by a saga that feels more dramatic than any fictional script. What began as a promising union of two fan-favorite heroes devolved into a battleground of alleged meddling, overshadowing, and personal grudges. The lawsuit alone suggests that the consequences could stretch far beyond fleeting headlines. $400 million is no small number, even in Hollywood. If Baldoni manages to prove his case, it might permanently alter the power dynamics in an industry used to star-driven influence. For Blake Lively, the controversy has left an indelible mark. She has been praised as a sharp business mind by some and derided as manipulative by others. Whether she emerges from this storm unscathed depends on how well she and her legal team handle the mounting accusations, and whether any newly leaked evidence cements a pattern of behind-the-scenes control. Ryan Reynolds, though still widely popular, may need to reconcile how much personal drama he's willing to fold into his professional life, especially if fans start questioning the authenticity of Deadpool's humor. Hugh Jackman, the man who once carried Wolverine to iconic status, stands at a crossroads. He embarked on this film hoping for a triumphant, well-earned comeback. Instead, he found himself stuck in a maze of controversies. He can either distance himself from these behind-the-scenes conflicts or double down on the creative choices that were made. Time will tell whether his bond with Reynolds and Lively withstands the strain, or if trust has been permanently eroded. Yet, the greatest question swirling around this entire fiasco is whether it will reshape how Hollywood handles star power. Will studios take a closer look at creative control clauses to prevent future fiascos? Or will this all fade, replaced by the next sensational headline? The intrigue remains, and new revelations could emerge at any moment. In the end, this saga might prove that even beloved stars aren't immune to shocking controversies. The Deadpool and Wolverine team-up was supposed to be a slam dunk, but personal drama hijacked the spotlight. As fans, we're left to wonder if these real-life conflicts will overshadow the final product forever, or if, against all odds, these characters will still deliver a memorable spectacle on screen. One thing's certain: the behind-the-scenes tales now rival the epic storylines these heroes face in the comics. And whether or not the controversy subsides, the repercussions of this tangled web are likely to keep Hollywood buzzing for a long time to come.